Silence. That's what filled the conference room after Jennifer Caldwell finished speaking. Not the comfortable silence of agreement, the heavy silence of shock. The kind that settles over a room when someone says something so fundamentally wrong that nobody knows how to respond. This role doesn't need your expertise anymore. 7 words, delivered with the confidence of someone who believed they understood a situation they'd spent 0 time actually analyzing. 7 words that ended 13 years of building something from nothing. 7 words that revealed just how little Jennifer Caldwell knew about what she was destroying. I sat at the conference table, hands folded, face neutral, watching her present her restructuring plan to the executive team, watching her explain why my position as Director of Strategic Client Relations was being eliminated, watching her describe how my responsibilities would be distributed among existing staff who already had full workloads and 0 experience doing what I did. She had charts, projections showing cost savings, analysis of departmental overlap. Everything looked professional, polished, convincing. To anyone who didn't actually understand how this company's client relationships worked. As you can see, Jennifer continued, pointing at a slide, we can achieve a 23% reduction in senior management costs by eliminating redundant strategic positions. The client relations function can be absorbed into sales and account management without impacting service quality. The CFO nodded. The VP of Operations looked convinced. Even our CEO, Richard Morrison, seemed to be following her logic. Nobody was asking the questions that mattered. Nobody was challenging the fundamental assumption that what I did could simply be redistributed to people who didn't know how to do it. Trevor, Jennifer said, looking at me for the first time since starting her presentation. I want to be clear that this isn't about your performance. You've done excellent work. But as we scale and optimize, we need to make strategic decisions about organizational structure. Your role, as currently configured, doesn't align with our future operational model. I stayed quiet. Let her finish. Let her commit fully to this decision in front of witnesses. Because what Jennifer didn't know, what she hadn't bothered to discover during her 60 days as our new Chief Operating Officer, was that eliminating my position triggered very specific contractual protections I'd negotiated 13 years ago when this company was desperate for exactly the expertise she now claimed was redundant. Do you have questions or concerns you'd like to discuss? Jennifer asked, her tone suggesting this was a formality rather than genuine interest in my perspective. Just one. When does this restructuring take effect? Effective end of business today. We'll provide a comprehensive severance package, 6 months salary, continuation of benefits, strong reference letter. We want this transition to be as smooth as possible. 6 months severance, generous by most standards, insulting when you understood what she was actually eliminating. But I didn't argue, didn't explain, didn't provide the education she desperately needed but wouldn't appreciate until it was too late. Thank you for the clarity. I'll collect my things this afternoon. Jennifer looked relieved, probably expected pushback, argument, emotion. When none came, she moved quickly to close the meeting. Excellent. HR will coordinate the exit paperwork. Trevor, again, we appreciate your contributions and wish you success in your next role. The meeting ended. Executives filed out. Jennifer left first, already focused on her next optimization project. Richard stayed behind, looking uncomfortable. Trevor, I want you to know this wasn't personal. Jennifer's been brought in to streamline operations, make us more efficient. Sometimes that requires difficult decisions about organizational structure. I understand. You've been a valuable part of this company. The severance package reflects that. If there's anything I can do to support your transition, references, or connections, just ask. I appreciate that, Richard. Actually, there is one thing. Of course, name it. Could you have someone from legal pull my original employment contract, the one from 2011 when you hired me? I need to review some clauses before I sign the severance agreement. Richard frowned. Is there a problem with the severance terms? Not with the severance. Just want to make sure I understand all my contractual obligations before moving forward. Sure, I'll have legal send it over within the hour. He left. I sat alone in the conference room for a moment, staring at the presentation still displayed on the screen. 23% cost savings, eliminating redundant strategic positions, absorbing functions into existing roles. It was impressive how wrong you could be when you only looked at organizational charts and salary costs without understanding what those salaries actually paid for. Jennifer had looked at my compensation, $247,000 annually, and seen an expense to eliminate. She hadn't looked at the revenue I protected, the relationships I maintained, or the contractual provisions that made eliminating my role extraordinarily expensive. That was about to become her education, and education, as they say, is rarely cheap. Before this gets wild, let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone make a catastrophically bad decision with complete confidence? Ever seen someone ignore warnings because they thought they knew better? If yes, you're going to love what happens next. Hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me about a time someone's arrogance cost them everything, because Jennifer Caldwell is about to learn a very expensive lesson. My name is Trevor Hamilton. I'm 46 years old. Until 2 hours ago, I was Director of Strategic Client Relations at Meridian Solutions, a technology consulting firm. 13 years, building it from 18 employees and $3 million in revenue to 270 employees and $148 million annually. I created the role Jennifer just eliminated, built it from nothing. Not traditional account management, but strategic integration into client organizations, understanding their business objectives, positioning our services as essential rather than optional. Over 13 years, I'd built relationships with 43 clients. Deep relationships where they trusted me to advise beyond service contracts. Those 43 clients represented $89 million annually, 60% of our total business. Jennifer Caldwell had been hired 60 days ago. Corporate consulting background, MBA, 10 years streamlining organizations, zero understanding of relationship-based business development, zero experience in professional services, zero patience for anyone questioning her optimization plans. I'd tried warning her. 3 weeks after she joined, I'd explained how strategic client relations functioned, walked through client structure, showed retention rates and lifetime value, explained how losing one major client could cascade into others leaving. Jennifer had listened like someone enduring an unnecessary lecture. Relationships don't create value, deliverables create value. Relationships just feel important to the people maintaining them. Most relationship-based roles are overhead pretending to be strategy. That should have warned me. But I'd assumed experience would teach her before she made major decisions. Wrong assumption. The contract arrived 30 minutes later, 57 pages. I'd negotiated it carefully 13 years ago when Richard couldn't afford market rate compensation but needed my expertise. Compromise. Lower initial salary with performance incentives, but provisions protecting my position if I successfully built what I'd promised. Section 7. Clause 7.3. If company eliminates Director of Strategic Client Relations position after employee achieves documented retention of client relationships representing 50% or more of company revenue, the following apply. A. Employee released from all non-compete obligations. B. Employee retains ownership of relationship documentation. Company provides 12 months base salary separation payment. I'd written that clause myself. Seemed reasonable then. If I failed, it was irrelevant. If I succeeded so thoroughly my clients represented 50% of revenue, why would they eliminate the position? Unless they hired someone who didn't understand what she was looking at. Clause 7.4. Employee may contact former clients regarding new opportunities provided contact occurs no sooner than 30 days after separation. 30 days. Nothing prevented clients from contacting me first. Nothing prevented me from accepting calls or responding to concerned clients. They just couldn't actively solicit within the window. I emailed legal, confirming the clause triggered. Response came within 20 minutes, confirming 12-month payment and non-compete waiver. I spent 2 hours transferring personal files. Not client data, that's theft. My personal notes, communication strategies, relationship frameworks, everything I'd developed independently. Then I updated LinkedIn, changed my title to Independent Strategic Consulting, noting I was available after 13 years at Meridian. Within an hour, my phone rang. Clients who'd seen the update, asking what happened, expressing concern, wanting to know if I'd still be available for guidance. I answered honestly. Position eliminated in restructuring. Grateful for the opportunity. Couldn't discuss future arrangements yet due to timing, but appreciated their concern. Professional. Careful. Completely within my rights. By day's end, 31 of my 43 clients had reached out, all asking, if Trevor's gone, what happens to our relationship with Meridian? Good question. One Jennifer would need to answer soon. I packed my office. Colleagues looked shocked. Most understood what my departure meant, even if Jennifer didn't. The company's most important relationships were being orphaned. Richard found me leaving. Legal told me about your contract provisions. I didn't realize you had those protections. Neither did Jennifer. This costs more than she projected. 12 months salary instead of 6. Plus, losing non-compete restrictions. Yes. Richard looked uncomfortable. Any way to reconsider? Find a structure that keeps you while achieving her optimization goals? You sat in that meeting and agreed my role doesn't need my expertise. Now you want to reconsider because it's expensive? Clients are already calling. They're concerned. They should be. You can't redistribute trust to whoever's available. What do you want me to do? Honor the decision. Let Jennifer implement her vision without my redundant expertise. I left, drove home. By end of day, 38 of 43 clients had reached out, all asking the same questions. I responded carefully. Professional messages acknowledging concern, explaining I was exploring opportunities and would be in touch about continuing our work together. Not solicitation, just acknowledgement, completely permissible. Now here's where things get interesting. Over the next 3 weeks, Jennifer's going to discover what happens when you eliminate expertise you don't understand. Stay with me, because this breakdown is methodical and devastating. Week 1 was quiet. Jennifer assigned my clients to 3 account managers. Each got 14 clients. Each already had full portfolios. Each had 0 experience doing strategic advising. Day 3. Cracks appeared. Jameson Industries, $7.2 million annually, called with a strategic question about integrating our platform with their acquisition target. The account manager gave a technical answer about API compatibility. Correct technically, completely missing the actual strategic question. Jameson's CIO called me that afternoon. I explained I was in a 30-day separation window but could listen as a friend in the industry. He explained the inadequate response, his concern that Meridian no longer understood their business. I offered general frameworks, didn't criticize Meridian or solicit business. At call's end, when you're able to formally consult, I'd like to discuss bringing you on independently. Similar calls happened throughout week 1. Strategic questions. New account managers couldn't provide depth. Clients expressing concern, asking when I'd be available. I took every call, provided general guidance, never solicited, never criticized, just made clear I understood their needs. Week 2 accelerated. Account managers were drowning, managing existing portfolios plus my former clients, fielding questions they couldn't answer, maintaining relationships they hadn't built. 3 clients called Richard directly, not complaints, questions about whether Meridian still had the strategic capability they valued. Richard called me. Clients are concerned. Could you consult to help new account managers get up to speed? I'm in separation, not available until obligations are fulfilled. How long? Week and a half. What happens after? I'll be available for independent consulting. If clients want to hire me directly, I'm free to accept. Long silence. You're going to take our clients. I'll be available to organizations that value strategic advising. If they're former Meridian clients, that's their choice. This is sabotage. No, this is consequence. Jennifer eliminated the role, distributed responsibilities to people who can't do it. Clients are responding rationally. We could enforce non-compete. You released me from non-compete per my contract. Already signed and processed. Jennifer triggered it. You can't retroactively enforce what you've waived. Silence. What do you want? Name your price to come back. It's not about price. It's about principle. Jennifer called 13 years of work redundant. Now she sees what the company looks like without it. So you're punishing us. I'm accepting the decision that was made. You don't get to eliminate my position and then demand I fix the problems created by eliminating my position. That's not how consequences work. I hung up, felt something between satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that reality was proving my value in ways words couldn't. Sadness that it had to happen this way. That Jennifer's arrogance and Richard's acquiescence had created a crisis that would hurt people who'd relied on relationships I'd built. Week 3. Everything collapsed. 4 major clients put their contracts up for review. Not cancellation exactly, just formal review of whether Meridian still provided the strategic value they required. In professional services, review is code for, we're preparing to leave unless something changes dramatically. Those 4 clients represented $29 million in annual revenue. Losing them would be catastrophic. Losing them would also trigger reviews from other clients who'd wonder if they should reconsider too. Cascade effect that could destroy 40% of Meridian's revenue within 6 months. Jennifer called an emergency executive meeting. I heard about it from a former colleague who still had my back. Jennifer was panicking, trying to figure out how to prevent the exodus. Richard was demanding answers about why her restructuring plan was imploding. The CFO was calculating the financial impact if even half the at-risk clients left. The solution they kept coming back to: hire Trevor back, undo the restructuring, admit the mistake. But pride is expensive. Jennifer didn't want to admit she'd been wrong. Didn't want to acknowledge that maybe relationship-based roles weren't just overhead pretending to be strategy. So instead of admitting error, she tried to solve it differently. She attempted to contact my clients directly, offering enhanced service terms, promising dedicated support resources, trying to convince them to stay without addressing the fundamental issue that the person they trusted was gone. 3 clients forwarded me her emails, asked what I thought, asked if Meridian could actually deliver what she was promising without me there to ensure it happened. I provided honest assessments, no editorializing, just straightforward analysis of whether Meridian's capabilities matched their needs without the strategic relationship layer I'd provided. The answer was usually no. Meridian was competent at technology delivery, excellent even. But without someone understanding the client's business deeply enough to anticipate needs and position solutions strategically, they became just another vendor, replaceable. Day 28 of my separation period, I received a certified letter from Jennifer, demanding I cease contact with Meridian clients, claiming I was violating the spirit of my separation agreement by accepting calls and providing guidance. I called legal counsel. Can they restrict me from accepting calls from people who contact me voluntarily? No. Your separation agreement includes non-compete waiver. You're free to accept consulting inquiries. As long as you're not actively soliciting during the 30-day window, which you're not, they have no basis for restriction. What about this claim that I'm violating the spirit of the agreement? Spirit doesn't matter. Contract language matters. You've complied with every term. They're trying to create restrictions that don't exist because they're panicking about the consequences of their own decision. Perfect. I ignored Jennifer's letter, continued taking calls, continued providing honest guidance when asked. Day 30. Restrictions expired. I was free to pursue consulting relationships. I didn't pursue them. They pursued me. Within 48 hours, 18 former clients requested independent strategic consulting, same advisory relationship, structured differently. Me as independent consultant rather than embedded resource. Most wanted to maintain Meridian technology contracts. They valued the platform, just needed strategic guidance Meridian couldn't provide. A few were ready to leave entirely. I accepted 15 requests, retainer consulting agreements, $40,000 to $75,000 annually each, total $940,000. Triple my former salary, same work, independent structure instead of corporate employment. The 3 I declined? Conflict of interest with other accepted clients, same ethical standards I'd always maintained. 2 weeks later, Meridian lost Jameson Industries, $7.2 million annually, terminated citing strategic capability concerns. They hired me same day, $65,000 annual retainer. 2 more followed within a week. 3 more over the following month. Total Meridian losses, $34 million annually, 23% of total business. Investors got nervous, started asking about client retention and revenue stability, started discovering one restructuring decision had triggered cascade-threatening company valuation. Richard called 6 weeks after my departure. We need to talk about fixing this. What situation? We're hemorrhaging clients, revenue collapsing, investors threatening to pull funding because you're taking our clients. I'm providing consulting to organizations that chose to hire me, organizations that approached me. This is vindictive. No, the company is experiencing natural consequences. If Jennifer's plan was sound, clients would have stayed. They're leaving because the plan was based on faulty assumptions. What if we offered chief client officer, executive role, significant compensation, authority to rebuild? You're offering a promotion to fix a disaster created by eliminating my position. Do you understand how absurd that is? We made a mistake. I'm trying to correct it. By promoting me into a rescue role that admits Jennifer's philosophy was wrong, how's that going with her? Jennifer is no longer with the company. Board terminated her last week. So she's been fired for making a catastrophically bad decision. And now you want me to come back and fix what she destroyed. At what cost to the company? Name your terms. My terms are that I'm not coming back. I spent 13 years building something valuable. Someone looked at it and decided it was redundant. I'm now making significantly more money doing the same work independently without the organizational politics and unappreciated expertise. Why would I give that up to return to a company that demonstrated it doesn't understand what I do? Because the company needs you. Then the company should have considered that before eliminating my position. I hung up. Richard called back twice more over the next week, each time with slightly more desperate offers. Each time I declined. The truth was, I was done. Done with corporate politics. Done with having to justify my value to people who should have understood it. Done working for organizations that viewed expertise as cost rather than investment. My independent consulting practice was thriving. 18 months after leaving Meridian, I had 27 clients. Annual revenue of $1.4 million. More freedom, more respect. More money. Better work-life balance. Everything I'd wanted but couldn't have while trapped in a corporate structure where my value was constantly questioned by people who didn't understand what they were questioning. Meridian struggled for 2 years after my departure. Never recovered the lost revenue. Eventually got acquired by a larger firm at a valuation 70% lower than investors had projected before Jennifer's restructuring plan. Richard lost his job in the acquisition. The new owners wanted fresh leadership untainted by the strategic failures that had destroyed so much value. Jennifer landed at another company about a year after Meridian fired her. Last I heard, she was still optimizing operations and streamlining organizations. Probably still convinced that relationships don't create value and that expertise is just overhead pretending to be strategy. Some people never learn. They just move from company to company, leaving destruction in their wake while blaming others for the consequences of their decisions. I'm Trevor Hamilton. I'm 46 years old. I spent 13 years building strategic client relationships that generated 60% of my company's revenue. The chief operating officer looked at my work and declared my role doesn't need my expertise anymore. She restructured my position out of existence with 7 words and complete confidence. She hadn't read my contract, didn't understand the protections I'd negotiated, didn't anticipate that eliminating my position would trigger releases from non-compete obligations and 12-month separation payment instead of standard severance. Most importantly, she didn't understand that relationships don't just exist on organizational charts. They exist between people. And when you eliminate the person maintaining those relationships, the relationships don't automatically transfer to whoever's available. 3 weeks after I left, clients started following me. Not because I solicited them, because they chose to work with someone they trusted over a company that had demonstrated it no longer valued the expertise they needed. Within 6 months, Meridian lost $34 million in annual revenue, nearly 23% of their business. Investors pulled funding. Valuation collapsed. Jennifer got fired. Richard eventually lost his job too. And me? I tripled my income, doing the same work I'd always done, just structured as independent consulting instead of corporate employment. That's not revenge. That's not vindictiveness. That's just what happens when you eliminate expertise you don't understand and discover too late that maybe it wasn't redundant after all. Jennifer declared, "My role doesn't need my expertise anymore." The market disagreed. 27 clients paying a total of $1.4 million annually for that supposedly unnecessary expertise. The lesson isn't about revenge or proving people wrong. It's about understanding what creates value before you eliminate it. About reading contracts before triggering clauses. About recognizing that relationships built over 13 years don't just magically transfer because you've redistributed them on an organizational chart. Jennifer learned these lessons expensively. Cost her career. Cost Meridian millions in revenue and market valuation. Cost Richard his position eventually. I learned them differently. Learned that sometimes being eliminated from a position you've outgrown is the best thing that can happen. That expertise always finds value even when specific organizations can't see it. That contracts negotiated carefully 13 years ago can provide protection when you need it most. 7 words ended my corporate career. This role doesn't need your expertise anymore. Those 7 words also launched an independent consulting practice more successful than anything I could have built while trapped in corporate structure. Sometimes the worst thing someone says to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing that happens to you. You just have to be patient enough to let consequences unfold and prepared enough to capitalize on opportunities when they arrive. I stayed quiet when Jennifer declared my expertise unnecessary. Didn't argue, didn't fight, just triggered the contract clauses she hadn't bothered to read and walked away. 3 weeks later, clients followed. Revenue collapsed. Investors pulled funding. Careers ended. And I built something better than what I'd lost. Something I owned. Something nobody could restructure out of existence with 7 words and unearned confidence. That's the real lesson. Not about revenge. About recognizing when elimination is actually liberation. When losing something you've outgrown opens space for building something better. Jennifer thought she was optimizing operations. She was actually doing me the biggest favor anyone had done for my career in 13 years. I should probably thank her, but I suspect she's too busy explaining to her next employer why her last optimization project destroyed 23% of company revenue. Some lessons are expensive. Some teachers never learn them. And sometimes being eliminated by people who don't understand your value is exactly what you need to discover what you're actually worth. 7 words, 13 years, $1.4 million in annual independent consulting revenue. The math speaks for itself.